Hey, what is up guys? So it's been a while since I last uploaded a video, but I did already mention that I would have a much slower pace now for the current videos, so do expect about 2 or 3 videos per week, maybe even less than that, and that's just how I organize my schedule. It depends. I'll do my best to upload as many as I can, so if one week happens to have more videos than the others, then don't get the expectations up that I'll continue on this particular path. It's more so that I'm just doing my best to put out as many videos as I can. But with that being said, we are on another episode here of ReaperCast, and I thought I would talk about something that was quite interesting and something that I kind of really had to bring up. So for today's topic in ReaperCast, we're actually going to talk about cutting back on the game, and this could not only apply for myself, which I'm trying to implement, but at the same time this could also transfer to how you would also play the game itself. So what I mean by this is, by cutting down or cutting out a bit of the game, it's more so me not being so consumed by the entire lifestyle of just trading card games on its own. And I wanted to also focus on different things as well. You know, I have more than one hobby, I have different things I also want to do, and I found that throughout my years playing Yu-Gi-Oh, it does get pretty time consuming, and it does kind of take over my entire life. So because of that, I realized that I kind of had to cut back a bit and take not so much as a hiatus, but more so just reduce the amount of time that reduce the number of investments on the particular game itself. And this is not just Yu-Gi-Oh, this is also applying to other card games as well, so Vanguard, Pokemon, Bakugan, all the same thing there. But when I say cutting back, I'm specifically referring to the actual collection that I own. So I think for the title of this video, I'll make it cutting down my collection as the main topic of the video, because by cutting down my collection, I will actually have 3 benefits from it. So number 1, I'll actually save money because I won't have to buy so many cards so often. So that's what I mean by cutting down my collection. Number 2, I'll be saving time, which is definitely a very significant thing. I'm far too invested into building so many decks at the same time that it's just consuming my entire life. And number 3, it also removes space. It takes up so much space when you have so many things in your collection, and because of that, I'm starting to run out of room, and I just don't know where to store all my cards now. So by reducing my collection, deciding to sell off a portion of it, I could actually reduce the space. Well, not reduce the space, reduce the collection and increase the space that I'll have to store anything else I have. But yeah, those are the 3 particular reasons, and I'm pretty much going to go into further detail onto how these things will come about. So right now I have about 70 decks, and yeah, that's a lot. I mean, 70 decks is an insane amount, and yeah, I just didn't realize that I had built so many decks. And you know, you guys could actually kind of see that in the deck profiles that I actually make, or the deck profiles that I've uploaded so far. How am I able to upload so many different deck profiles, not just the same focus on one deck, but I'm able to put so many different decks up. And it's because as I've been playing the game for a long time, I pretty much have an open mind, and I just build pretty much every single deck that comes out, every single deck that's introduced, or at least I try my best to. Some decks like, you know, Mech Knights, obviously I never built that. Maybe it was because it was too expensive, but you know, anything that was within affordable means for me, I pretty much just went all in and built those decks. So every time a new set came out, I would be building 3 or 4 decks at a time, and as things went along, I would just end up with so many decks. And now that I have 70 different decks, it's becoming a huge mess, and it's really hard to organize. I realize that it's a huge consumption of money. It consumes my finances, I guess. It's not so serious to the point where it's going to cause me to be broke, but you know, it is still definitely something that I have to be conscious about, you know. So by cutting back my collection, I could perhaps save up money or get back some money again, to then focus more on getting actual good staples for the main decks I want to focus on. So that's one of the things that I want to be a bit more aware of, and same thing applies for in the future as well, where I'm buying new sets. I'm not going to immediately build a new deck just because it's a new archetype that's being introduced. I'll think carefully about what I want to go into properly, and you know, we'll see how things go there. Like right now, a particular deck that I really want to build that I have no copies of whatsoever is at Ignixters. They came out like in Ignition Assault, I think, so definitely a long time ago already. We've already had about like 2 or 3 sets since then, and I've pretty much fallen behind, but I still want to build that particular deck. And as for a lot of the other decks, I kind of put them to the side, you know, like not consider them as much, because I intend to be more conscious of just spending money entirely on every single deck that's introduced. But yeah, with that being said, that's the whole money aspect of it, the whole money side. It's not so much that I'm losing money, it's more so just being more conscious and I guess spending money more responsibly. So on to point number 2, like I said, actually, you know what, point number 2 was specifically focusing on time. I'm going to talk about space first. So when it came to space, you know, I have 70 different decks, and you can imagine how difficult it is to actually store all these cards. It's everywhere. I have them, I don't know, on a bookshelf, I have them under my bed, I have them in the drawers. I just have them everywhere in my room that it's just taking up all the space, and it's becoming really difficult to organize, very difficult to go through. And you know, I also, like I said, have different hobbies where I also buy other things as well, so it's becoming hard to store all these different items around. And by cutting back on the collection, at least I can free up some space in my room, and that would be quite wonderful indeed. But yeah, point number 2, it didn't actually go too long, so we can now immediately move on to point number 3. So point number 3 was all about actually regaining time. So what I mean by this one I really have to be specific here, is by cutting back on my collection, I don't have to spend so much of my time fixated on building all of these 70 decks at once, you know, just to get it up on a deck profile. And by doing that, it's not good. I mean, if you think about it, I'm spending, let's say I spent 1 whole week reorganizing or rebuilding different of my decks, like all 70 of these decks, it would definitely be really time consuming, you know. And at the same time, it would also be very ineffective, as opposed to me having 1 whole week to instead rebuild or readjust maybe 20 decks, you know, as opposed to 70 decks. I mean, there's such a huge difference. And so by cutting down on the decks, I could spend more time on the decks I truly want to keep, or the ones that are more representative of who I am as a duelist. And as a result, I could pretty much improve on the game and create better deck profiles overall. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now, is I'm actually just going over a lot of my decks, and I've just been really strict with myself. So I've been cutting down a lot of decks and deciding which ones I'm just going to get rid of, either by selling or just dismantling them and putting them as part of the bulk, depending on what their value is. And yeah, that way I could spend more time on the decks that I really think are a good representation of who I am, you know. So right now I have about 70 decks, and I'm thinking about cutting it down to maybe 20 to 30 decks. I know that sounds extremely difficult, and I agree, it's going to take a long time. I think maybe a couple of months, maybe it will go into 2021 as well. This will be a long time for me to actually start clearing out the different decks that I have, clearing out my collection, you know, so it's going to take a while, but, you know, at least there's one thing you guys have to look forward about, is that every deck that I decide to cut out, I will do one final deck profile or one final combo video, one final test hand video, just to, I guess, kind of close things off with that particular deck. And then I will pretty much just put it away and, you know, either get rid of it or whatever. And it will pretty much not return again later down the line, unless I somehow really miss it and I want to rebuild it again. But with that being said, it's really just one of the main things that I've been wanting to do. And, you know, if you guys are actually realizing this as well, it's time for you guys to actually go and sort out your cards, cut down your collection as well. Maybe it is starting to consume your time a lot. And, you know, it's kind of ironic really, during this particular period of time, you would think that we would have more time to actually be consumed with all of these, you know, TCGs and everything, but we don't actually have that time. You know, if anything, there's so many other things to do that I figured I'm not going to spend so much time anymore on this. I just want to cut down the collection, and yeah, hopefully that'll actually work out for me. You know, it'll make things a lot better. I could then focus so much on just the specific decks that I really want. That would be fantastic. I know I'm repeating myself here, but it's just such an important thing, and I feel like I could definitely make a lot more better deck profiles. I'll give you guys an example. Some decks that I will never get rid of is DDDs, Necros, Dark Lord, Black Wings, Fire Fist. Those decks I am keeping pretty much forever, and I'm never going to get rid of it. But, you know, a lot of the more casual decks that I've been building, I guess decks that I don't take as seriously, like FAs or maybe even crawlers, I'm probably going to get rid of those because I just don't spend enough time on those, and it also takes away from my time to develop the decks like DDDs or Dark Lords. But I think that's pretty much it for what I wanted to say about cutting back on the collection for today. So do you guys actually agree on this? What do you guys actually think about your own lifestyles and how TCGs have kind of affected you? But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely leave a like and also subscribe if you still haven't, because it definitely helps out the channel a lot. But in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.